where I'm going to. But Alex, oh my God, Alex, what are you?
I'm trying to find something. Looking around.
Are you trying to find a classified fragment?
Yeah, or whatever. Or if it's
Yeah, that's way back at the very beginning, man.
No, I got the one classified fragment.
Okay, you know what?
There's only one in there. Wait, are you talking about the one in the beginning of the maze?
Yeah.
In the maze, right?
Yeah, in the maze.
There's only one calcified fragment
great.
in there.
Now, pause. Oh, wait.
Hey, you better fucking quit, Connor. You done used your dead super. How about the leg? Shit.
There were Imperials everywhere in the ruins, and dead civilians. The Ravens were killing everything in sight. Renato was relieved to see no rebels among the dead. Maybe the secret base was still secret, but there were huge burn marks on buildings. What monstrous weapon was the Empire using here? The core had great power. Had they harnessed it somehow, even though they didn't have the armature? Hypatia had been the first woman who'd ever tried to convince Renato he was smart. He knew he wasn't nearly as clever as he thought he was, but she'd pushed him to think things through. She had a
grenade will kill him, just leave him alone.
was better than his own. Renato thought about the intel he'd gathered from the outpost. Who would he bring it to? Who even had time to read it? He could smell charred flesh and hear screams. The ruins were on fire. The Ravens had rigged up the core
Challenge
some
ended
kind
photo
of
this week.
burning ray. They wouldn't need to know the secret location. They were burning everything. It was killing them too. Their black feathers littered the path. He would have to take the core from them. It was the last thing he wanted to do.
The only thing is calcified if you need it. The only thing.
What, for challenge? You won't even get a calcified for doing challenge.
Oh, yes. Why the hell are you gonna do challenge? I thought you were doing challenge mode.
The rebel base seemed quiet. That was good. Also, it seemed to be burning. That wasn't so good. As the last raven fell, Renato felt worse than he ever had. The core was killing him, again. The council members cautiously came out into the smoke. "You saved us," croaked the speaker. They would put the weaponized core deep in a cavern, she promised, where its poison could harm no one. They would heal him if they could, she said. No, it's a weapon now. We need one. I'll lead the charge. "It will kill you," croaked the speaker. "I guess it already has," Renato said. She bobbed her head gravely. "When all this is over," she said, "we'll name our new capital city for you." He flew towards the Imperial fleet. A myriad ships in disciplined formation, waiting for the signal to destroy the rebellion forever. Behind him, the rebels were charging. If he failed, they would die. And so the final battle began.
Does anybody else know how to take gaze? Because if I'm on gaze, you're gonna lose one of your highest DPS.
Let Twin take it. He running the Gallahorn.
Why the fuck would I let... Why did the Gallahorn make any difference than taking gaze?
Cause I got shingles.
Yeah, why would you have to choose the back? Backside. Get the game.
I'm a snake.
Everything hurt. It was unpleasant to fight this way. With each blow he struck with his sword, he felt weaker. Yet each time the core fired, it got brighter. As if the heat from the burning ravens and buildings only fed its hunger. He wondered where Lupino was. Wasn't he supposed to be in the battle? No. He'd been captured, hadn't he? Oh, Renato's mind was smoky now, like the burning fleet. He hoped this wouldn't take long.
He didn't even need to aim it.
Why? What happened? Oh.
Reynardo-opolis. Vulpus Major. Lando Nardo. If they were going to name a capital city after him, well, he just wished he had a better name. Where was Lupino? He missed Lupino's bitter outbursts. Or did he? Lupino had gotten him into this mess, hadn't he? The core was a wonderful weapon. It swept fire across the fleet. Ravens exploded in its gaze, and with every heartbeat it grew brighter. He would die. But he would die every inch a hero. Spectacularly, changing history, like the legendary heroes of lore. Or was it Yore? He couldn't remember anymore.
Why, did his son leave the party? Oh, shit. That's what I mean. He's gonna be pissed off. Because he never does, Well, it's like you guys are gonna have to restart it.
I'm not restarting this shit, so.
Reynardo fell to his knees. The Emperor's bodyguards were lined up before his ship. Fierce ravens, all. And Zenobia. She was conjuring. He could not take another step. All he could do was fire the core. The ravens, Zenobia, the ship, all burst into flames, disintegrated, and blew away. So they had one, after all. The core grew brighter. He shielded his eyes, but he could still see it through his sleeves and through the flesh of his arm. And then he felt heat, as the fire grew to consume both fleets. And then he felt nothing.
Oh, again?
But he already had all the secrets he needed. He was sure of that. He must have not used them the right way. What was the best, worst mistake he could make? Probably trusting that traitor Lapino.
No, 1950.
1943.
Yeah, 43.
The book's
Damn, you ever
pages
know when the
fluttered
World
to
War
begin
II
once
happened?
again.
Damn.
Faster than before? And he fell. The clouds parted over the Isles of Boreas.
I mean, World War II, my
It was
dumbass.
time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game changer. Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced.
Use your super.
Reynardo knew that using it could go catastrophically wrong. But he was sure he could figure out how to use it safely. Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert.
You won't be able to get the completion now.
Stone was hidden there. It was a dangerous artifact. It could corrupt its user into a bloodthirsty monster. Maybe
Don't get kicked.
find a way to
Arm
use
will
it
kick you.
to take
Arm
its
will
power
kick you.
without surrendering to its wickedness. And also, his old friend Lapino needed rescuing. Of course. Reynardo had a pretty strong suspicion that Lapino had betrayed the rebellion. And he had a gut feeling that he needed to use that to his advantage.
And he left the fire team.
Reynardo finally realized that Lapino was a traitor to the cause. And maybe Reynardo could use that somehow.
Yeah, Marty left, dude.
Ah, Lapino.
He's out of the party.
Apparently, the Mad Rabbit had sold a Pegasus that he...
Somebody invite this fucker back to the party chat.
I invited him.
Am I alive yet? I'm still not alive? Let me guess, Marty? Oh, now I have that. Now I have the whistle.
Lapino had apparently managed to confuse the judge by arguing that he hadn't actually stolen a winged horse. He'd only sold it. But wait, where was the prison? The village was empty. Had everybody fled the ravens? The ravens had taken the town. Renato had seen villages emptied like this. All the people taken away to be sacrificed in the Emperor's secret rituals. Renato hoped the people were just hiding.
Oh, so speaking of streaming, go ahead and finish your story. I got
You're
one
gonna tell
for
me
you.
about Batman, you already told me.
Batman's a fucking streamer now.
I know, you told me.
He's doing free Nightfall and raid carries. No, hell no. Hell no, man. I watch a lot of streamers.
That's not a carry then.
Lapino must be waiting at the end of the cemetery. Renato wanted badly to confront him for his treachery. But what good would that do him?
Yeah, that's what he says. It says free Nightfall and raid carries.
Lapino would betray him. But now Renato knew that. What would Lapino do if he knew that Lapino was going to betray him? Well, he'd concoct some crazy scheme, wouldn't he? That used Lapino's betrayal against him and it would blow up in his face. Yeah. Maybe he was overthinking this. Well, that would be a first. Dirty and bloody, Renato finally reached Lapino. The rabbit was practicing his shuffle. Renato recognized the cards. It was Lapino's favorite deck. Oh, I thought you were in danger. I am. The ravens are coming. Oh, the prison thing. Right, yeah, we see this guard owed me 53 ducats. So we capture Zenobia. We find out what she knows. And that's the whole war right there. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Capture the Emperor's greatest general, who happened to also be a deadly sorcerer, and, oh, his only daughter? Ah, that would be worth it. And it would be nice to see her. He'd always had a soft spot for her. And, he felt sure, she had one for him. On the other hand, he could still get to the core of the Sky Ripper, even if he couldn't get the whole thing. It must have great power. Zenobia wasn't just the Emperor's daughter, of course. She'd been Renato's best friend in sword fu school. And you're still mad for her, the rabbit reminded him. The rabbit had a point. And Renato had a feeling she'd want to see him again. Who knows what could happen between the two of them this time around? She knows all his plans, chuckled the master spy. She won't give them up easily. She'll tell the interrogators, all right, said Lapino. Taking her would change the game, all right.
Right. One time you go to Golgoroth, if you get unstable light, and he's still at like a 7 seconds on the timer, then you run up to Golgoroth, get your damage, come back, get a couple more shots off. If you're down fucking past 4 when he says, when you get unstable light, all ass to the right or the left, I just go right. Slide here.
The city was already under Zenobia's control. I had to admire her efficiency. Renato shivered at the thought of Zenobia at the mercy of the interrogators. Could he really turn her over to them? But this was war. It wasn't meant to be pretty.
Alright, so I go up there, kill people in the hallway, go up there, shoot the thing, then everybody's gonna
We just stand beside the boxes in the front, shoot shit until it's time to get ammo. Then we'll say ammo run. You go up there and get your ammo. While you're getting your ammo, you check the bridge for your death, make sure he's dead. Check the other guy's bridge on the left or the right. Not yours. Then you can't get your ammo.
was Lupino urging him to capture Zenobia? Obviously it was a trap. But you never knew how Lupino thought. Sometimes his plans were so convoluted they did the exact opposite to what Lupino wanted. And there must be some way to play on that, Renato thought.
Was Alex running this in the back or some shit? Ammo run on low. You got your saber.
I knew exactly Amber wasn't ready. That's why I not trying to.
But everybody needs to go grab Amber. Alright, bubble is up. Everybody get
So,
the hammer dart.
what's this plan of yours? Use me as bait, said Lupino. And he outlined a slightly complicated plan that involved geese, a net, setting the Farfarer a little bit on fire, Lupino dressing as an old blind toad, and Renato hiding inside a monstrous watermelon. What could possibly go wrong? Thought Renato.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Get out.
Now see, I have unstable. If I
It's
was
about
going
half
anywhere near
damage. That was a shit tether,
Oh,
by
this
the
is
way.
going to be fun, said
said
Lupino, as he ran to go set up his marvelous plan.
You seriously tethered him at the end of the fucking damage phase, man?
We just clear out. Now we rinse and repeat. Same thing we did the first one.
Alright, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to save that tether until the fucking taken spawn.
Yeah, don't use
Renato felt dubious about the whole plan. With every step, he was waiting for it all to go horribly wrong. But against all odds, Lupino's idiotic plan worked. Zenobia's ravens ran off after the geese, the net dropped, and Renato jumped out of the watermelon and put his sword to Zenobia's throat. Renato, she said, are those new scarves? They look good on you. You never returned my velvet jacket. It was my favorite. You look stupid in velvet. Ah, what does an imperial princess know about style? Ah, get a room, you two, said Lupino, probably sensing the chemistry. But the fleet was coming on fast, so they took Zenobia east, over the Nexus. She'd vanished from swordfish school, from his life, without even saying goodbye. Without ever telling him she was the Emperor's adopted daughter. Renato was aware of her feelings. Maybe this was a bad idea, but was he letting his own feelings get the better of him?
12, 11, 10, 9, 8, unstable.
Ah, Lupino was right, Renato thought reluctantly. She knows things. She recognized his look. You're taking me to the interrogators, aren't you? She said, wide-eyed. And then she jumped, with horror. Renato saw Zenobia plummeting. Then he saw the Nexus below them. Cats always land on their feet. Ah, she'll head for the Imperial outpost, yelled Lupino. You have to catch her.
Shit. Alright, well just kill Thralls, man. Just kill Thralls. We're not gonna use
I think I got it. Alright. I'm full. I just need to finish up these straws I spawned and then I'll be out of here.
Yeah, I gotta reload here. Alright, get out my spot, man. Fuck.
Cats can run faster, but foxes can run longer. If he ran, he could head her off before she reached her minions at the outpost. Well, he did love a good
I got
chase.
2 back here, man. Here, take this. Hey, I got a bubble. Got it. Gotta reload, hang on.
Oh my god. Watch, you got a melee. Bro, who just threw me out?
Alright, I got it. 18, 17, 16,
Tether the
15,
ground,
14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, table, 6.
Renato had learned so much about it. He was closing on her. He could smell her fear. He tried not to think about the interrogators at the secret base. What did they do to her? Maybe it didn't have to end that way. Maybe he could talk to her. But, after all, there were worse things the Imperials had done to friends of his. It did not matter how outnumbered the rebellion was. The secret Zenobia held would level the playing field. Code, password. She could wreak havoc with just a few whispers to a far speaker. Renato reached the outpost. The Imperials there were no match for him. Soon after, Zenobia limped up the path. When she realized he was already in front of her, she didn't even try to run. Oh, you left without saying goodbye. Again, he said, please. I'm enjoying this a little too much, she said, shaken. Oh, spare us the chit-chat, would you? Said Lapino as he shackled her hands so she couldn't throw spells. She knows all his plans. All the way back to the Farfair, Lapino nagged Renato about how the interrogators would pry all the intel out of Zenobia. How that would turn the tides in the imminent battle. All they had to do was take her to the rebel secret base. Renato didn't like to think about what the interrogators would do to her. Couldn't he just talk to her?
No, I don't think I have all the here.
Okay, well then it's right here.
As they reached the ruins, Renato could see ravens everywhere, searching for the rebel base. They'd have to hide the Farfair or go on foot. What if we get separated? Asked Lapino, for once thinking ahead. I'll show you a map to the base. Renato told Lapino. Renato, don't do this, said Zenobia. We were friends once. We... Shut it, witch, or I'll shackle your mouth too, said Lapino. See? Renato thought. There was no way Lapino was working for the Empire. He really hated Zenobia. And then, a few moments later, they touched down.
Alex, drop down here, man.
I figured somebody was gonna kill me while I was in that shit anyway. Normally it does happen. That or while I'm smoking. Because I probably died while I was smoking. Oh man,
You get those from War Priest, man.
I got some nice guns. Look at the ones I got on right now. Spec me real quick. This is from
Alex, what the fuck are you doing, man?
As Lapino pulled Zenobia off the Farfarer, Renato readied himself for the battle ahead. I'm sorry I nicked your jacket, she said. It's just... It's stupid, but... It smelled like you. What? He said, confused. Then... Why didn't you ride? Why didn't you far speak? Oh, save the romantic nostalgia. Let's go! Shrieked Lapino. So Renato launched himself down the path to the secret base.
Got a sniper reload.
Right there in the corner, man.
I still got my
Renato thought about Hypatia's kid. Poor, dumb Peter. Cut down by a goggler. He wondered if Peter had known he was protecting the Book of Destinies. Or was he just another brave kid, making his mummy proud? Renato was walking Zenobia to the rebel secret base, where she would be interrogated. So, why was he feeling so scared? They caught their breath. It's beautiful, she said, looking at the ruins. This used to be the library of Ubar, he said, before your father's ravens smashed it. Do we have to talk politics? She asked. That's not how I want to remember you, she said with an odd, wistful look at her face. She was as beautiful as she'd ever been, and as brave. Peppino huffed. They got back on the trail. Well, you should see the other guy. The long stairs. So he was close to the rebel base. Nothing was on fire. So far, so good. As they made their way to the secret rebel base, Renato felt strange. Zenobia was his prisoner, yet somehow she felt more like an old friend. He wanted to tell her all his secrets, but suddenly the ruins lit up with thousands of fireworks. There was a thunderous roar and dust rose. The caves were collapsing. The caves! You've been playing me? Renato said, and he stared at Zenobia. I'm sorry, she said, and she seemed almost embarrassed. Then everything went dark. When Renato came to, he had a terrible headache. Also, Zenobia's sword was at his throat, and her shackles were gone. So was Lupino. The terrible thing is, he said, I really have missed you. Now that we've destroyed the rebellion,
Chaos, man.
would you consider becoming an advisor to the Emperor's daughter? I'm no one's servant. Everybody serves. Even if it's only destiny. I like to choose my own destiny,
I
he
got a
said.
solution for that. Don't be
The whole
fast.
point of a destiny is you can't choose. Oh, never mind, she said. Look, if I see you again, I'll have to kill you. He watched her ship soar away. He would see her again, he decided. Even if he had to fight his way across the entire fleet.
Alex, can you wall climb?
It's just a little mini race.
I'm not good at that.
Oh, Marty just deleted
You have a
exotic,
sword?
son. Marty just deleted
Yeah, I have a
exotic.
sword, yeah.
I did this because I need to infuse some shit.
Alright, I'm gonna teach you how to fucking wall climb. Get back over here.
The Imperial fleet was cleaning up the few rebel remnants. For only a moment,
You realize that
he
you're the only
thought
one
about
doing it,
running.
right?
But heroes don't run, even when the world is against them. Even when their cause is hopeless and their efforts futile and pointless and useless and death painful and guaranteed. He's decided to stop thinking for a while.
Alex, where the fuck you at?
Ooh, the portal that led right into the middle of the fleet. It was a glaring weakness in the defense.
Why are you going that way? Deathwish, seriously, man, get back across here. I'm not standing on this fucking plate. I've got to do that. You got a sword out, Deathwish? Alex, this is what you're gonna do, alright? You're gonna go XR1, XR1, XR1 while you're pushing up on your analog stick. XR1, 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 XR1.
What dreams may come, he thought.
Make sure you have enough heavy.
He found out.
First,
You know, I don't have no heavy in my fucking shit right now. I'm down.
you don't even need ammo.
I'm rock climbing. I just rock climb with this. I ain't got no heavy.
How are you climbing up that? If you climb up that, I don't give a shit. Just climb up, son. Fuck. Yeah, he's trying to, but that's the harder one to climb up. I like it better too. I can walk on it.
Renado's arm was sore, his armor wet with raven blood.
Need something with more of a
Tired of
like
death.
this fucking wall.
Death was not yet tired of him. The rebels were losing. Badly. In some other universe, Renado thought, he and Zenobia had left sword fu school together, taken other names and sailed off into the mists.
Alright,
But not this Zenobia,
watch me.
and not him.
You see
For
where I'm
him,
climbing up
there was
at?
nothing to do but forge ahead.
Okay?
Kill the Emperor and end this.
Okay, X, R1, XR1, 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 XR1. Just push up on the joystick while you're doing this. Keep it. Don't stop, don't stop, don't stop, don't stop. Keep coming. You can't get a helmet from War Priest. Every raid, you can only get the helmet from the boss.
Final boss.
Soon he'd confront the Emperor.
Spike.
Funny that this whole war had come about because the Emperor feared death.
So I got this one.
And now it was coming for him. There was some sort of lesson there, wasn't there?
Try it again. Stop swinging your body when your joysticks There you go.
At last, he reached the Emperor's ship. Zenobia was there. Why'd you have to come back? She said, guess I'm just serving my destiny. He shrugged. You don't even know what that word means. She said, do you ever wonder if things have been different all the time? She said, and drew her sword. In the end, Bernardo lay bleeding out on the deck.
If I had to guess,
Zenobia sat by his side.
I would say
Upset.
that. I would say that.
What are you so upset about? He asked. You wouldn't understand. Why didn't you tell me you were going to leave school? I was afraid you'd convince me not to. I guess I'll have to buy you a drink in the halls of the Valiant then, he told her. And then he was gone. Oh, again? But he already had all the secrets he needed. He was sure of that. He must have not used them the right way. What was the best, worst mistake he could make?
The spike, okay?
Probably trusting that traitor Lapino.
Keep swinging.
The book's pages fluttered to the beginning once again. Faster than before, and he fell. The clouds parted over the Isles of Boreas. It was time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game changer. Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced. Bernardo knew that using it could go catastrophically wrong. But he was sure he could figure out how to use it safely. Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert. The Iblis stone was hidden there.
Goddamn, somebody
It
get
was
over
a
here on the
dangerous
spike
artifact.
pillar. Somebody get on the goddamn
It could
pillar.
corrupt its user into a bloodthirsty monster. Maybe he could find a way to use it. To take its power without surrendering to its wickedness. And also, his old friend Lapino needed rescuing. Of course, Bernardo had a pretty strong suspicion that Lapino had betrayed the rebellion. And he had a gut feeling that he needed to use that to his
His
advantage.
character left him right wildly fun. You know what I'm saying?
Bernardo finally realized that Lapino was a traitor to the cause. And maybe Bernardo could use that somehow.
God damn. Fuck Christ.
Ah, Lapino. Apparently, the Mad Rabbit had sold a pet.
Fuck. It will be alright.
Alex is not a cheap heart from the guy, so he don't cheat.
Dude, why are you going that way, Alex, motherfucker? Spawn back
It
here.
doesn't really matter if he cheats or what. It matters at certain spots.
Get on this plate right here.
Lapino had apparently managed to confuse the judge by arguing that he hadn't actually stolen the winged horse. He'd only sold it.
I don't think
But
I've built this fucking
wait,
bridge since
where was the prison?
Iron come out.
The village was empty. Had everybody fled the Ravens?
Let's go. Jump.
That was odd. Renato had been here, at this exact place, at this exact time. But this time, there were so many more ravens. Ravens were landing everywhere. The advance guard. He'd better get moving. If they got to Lupino first, they'd eat him for breakfast. Or a snack. Ravens weren't picky. If they got hungry, they sometimes forgot to interrogate their prisoners. Even top spies like Lupino. Well, unless he really was a traitor, obviously. Then they'd probably pin a medal on his chest. Lupino would betray him. But now Renato knew that. What would Lupino do if he knew that Lupino was going to betray him? Well, he'd concoct a crazy scheme, wouldn't he? That used Lupino's betrayal against him and it would blow up his face. Maybe he was overthinking this. Well, that would be a first. Dirty and bloody, Renato finally reached Lupino. The rabbit was practicing his shuffle. Renato, we capture Zenobia, we find out what she knows. And that's the whole war right there. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Capture the Emperor's greatest general, who happened to also be a deadly sorcerer, and, oh, his only daughter? Yeah, that would be worth it. And it would be nice to see her. He'd always had a soft spot for her. And he felt sure she had one for him. On the other hand, he could still get to the core of the Sky Ripper. Even if he couldn't get the whole thing, it must have great power. Zenobia wasn't just the Emperor's.
You fucking retard. Alright, go jump across here. Space your jumps out, and then jump up here.
Can't believe he done it, but he did it.
Jump up here. Alright, now, all you have to do...
The city was already under Zenobia's control. I had to admire her efficiency. Renato shivered at the thought of Zenobia at the mercy of the interrogators. Could he really turn her over to them? But this was war.
Wait, was that Alex?
It wasn't meant to be pretty.
Yeah, fuck you. You're 400.
Bitches. I'm first place when I'm not torn, but right now I can't be first place because I'm torn, so I might take first place.
I'm a little
Next round, I'm first place.
Hold the fuck up. I want my exotic.
So anyway,
Good job.
alright, so after this round,
Why was Lupino
What the fuck did you say, Dark?
Zenobia?
He said
Obviously it was a
after
trap.
he's not torn on the
But you
second
never
round,
knew how Lupino
he's on
thought.
first place.
Sometimes his plans were so convoluted they did the exact opposite to what Lupino wanted. Yeah, there must be some way to play on that, Renato thought.
man, all y'all can't be in a fucking middle.
Here's what we're gonna do. Listen to me. He gets this. We're going down to this plate. Armed and without standing on. Okay? And we're gonna kill
So,
you so you can see
What's this plan of yours? Use me as bait, said Lupino. And he outlined a slightly complicated plan that involved geese, a net, setting the Farfarer a little bit on fire, Lupino dressing as an old blind toad, and Renato hiding inside a monstrous watermelon. What could possibly go wrong? Thought Renato.
Now, on the second damage phase, we're going up there on that
Oh,
first platform. And
go
we're gonna
ahead.
kill
I'm sure you know
his
better,
daughter.
said Lupino.
Alright, I'll take third plate. Fuck third.
What?
What the fuck was that?
No, fuck it.
Hey,
Go,
man,
dude.
stop fucking punching me for
Third plate's up. Dude, you wanna kill the man?
Renato slinked through Zenobia's ship, making no sound at all.
Alright.
Where were her
Snipers.
guards?
Oh,
Finally,
the timer's not
he
going
reached her
down.
bedroom.
Snipers.
She was curled up on her
I
bed.
got it.
Oh, he'd
I get
forgotten how
right.
beautiful she was. How
Kill the
sleek,
fucking snipers and get
how
run right.
soft. He tapped her on the shoulder with his sword. She became smoke. And he noticed he had a blade to his throat. Stay a while, purred a familiar voice. Did you really think you could capture me? Zenobia said as the ship lifted off. Now I just wanted some privacy, Renato said. Renato knew she still had feelings for him.
Told you get out your
Maybe he could just cut to the
Somebody
chase.
break off. Two people
But
break
was
off. Go to
timing
ads.
right for that?
I don't have a timer, man. It's stuck at 1 minute.
210 is gone.
Kill the ads.
Serious everything is
I know how you feel about me, baby. I know you want to be with me, Renato said. What? The Emperor's evil, baby. I'm nice. Remember how nice I was back in school? You were an idiot in school. You said it was funny, said Renato, starting not to like how the conversation was going. The Emperor pulled me out of an alley. Don't tell me he's evil. Yeah, but did you ever wonder why? No, I didn't. Why don't you ask him? Well, because I know why. He wants to sacrifice you. You can tell him that when he interrogates you. Can't we just start this over? But Zenobia shut him in the hold of the ship. He had no one to explain anything to until he was brought to the Emperor's interrogators. After that,
Fuck, man.
it was just screaming. He had tried something bold and paid the price for it.
Oh, no, I didn't leave.
It's lagging really badly because
You done?
I shot the Vandal, but he
No,
didn't
dude,
even
it
die.
booted me.
He
Oh,
lagged
okay.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it said bird or some shit.
Dude, y'all gotta get that damage up, man. Shit.
Did it show my damage? It didn't show my
No,
damage.
it didn't show
The
your
city was
damage,
already
dude.
under
I got
Zenobia's
70
control.
I got 700.
I had to admire her efficiency.
Man.
Renato shivered at the thought of Zenobia at the mercy of the interrogators. Would he really turn her over to them? But this was war. It wasn't meant to be pretty.
Sorry, is your Wi-Fi?
Shitter net.
There's your problem. There's your problem. That's your internet service that you're using. You can't change that.
He lives in the ghetto. He gets his internet from niggers or us.
Why was Lupino urging him to capture Zenobia? Obviously it was a trap. But you never knew how Lupino thought. Sometimes his plans were so convoluted they did the exact opposite to what Lupino wanted. Let him must be some way to play on that, Renato thought.
Oh, really?
Yes, yes, in the fucking line.
Well, let me ask you a question, whoever the fuck said that. What in fucking... what fucked up universe makes you think that we can't beat fucking daughters? We can beat fucking orcs.
Titties.
Can we get this shit going?
So,
please? Somebody needs to go
what's this plan of yours? Use me as bait, said Lupino. And he outlined a slightly complicated plan that involved geese, a net, setting the Farfarer a little bit on fire, Lupino dressing as an old blind toad, and Renato hiding inside a monstrous watermelon. What could possibly go wrong? Thought Renato. Oh,
Blades up. Chuck
go
grenades
ahead.
in the middle.
I'm sure you know better,
Suck.
said Lupino.
Hey, I got a timer this time.
Yeah, me too. 7 seconds on sniper. 5.
Hey, add dude, get the relic sniper.
Renato slinked through Zenobia's ship, making no sound at all.
Alright, everybody stay
Where
in
were her
the line.
guards? Finally, he reached her bedroom. Now I just wanted some privacy, Renato said. Renato knew she still had feelings for him. Maybe he could just cut to the chase. But was timing right for that?
I jumped
Second
up.
plate up.
Hey, bro.
Get on second plate.
I jumped up to her. Jump up. I might have jumped
Plate
on
is
her.
right here. It's right here. Yeah, you're on second plate, Dart.
Alex, get up. No, it's I went the wrong one. That was my bad.
It's all good. It's all good, man.
That's the deacon.
Hey, I'm torn.
Bro, I'm pretty sure the relic was on front left when I headed back here, but
Dude,
yeah,
it's lagging like a motherfucker, man. Alex, you out or you fucking lag out?
I lagged out. They told me I have. You have lost.
Well, it probably did that fucking double relic bullshit, Dart. I swear to fucking God,
I
it
don't know. I seen one on front left, so I headed. And I'm fucking got lagged out again. I got burned. This new shit.
Did you ever wonder why the Emperor adopted you?
That's my air.
And he told her why. His Imperial Majesty wanted to bring the lost gods back. They could make him immortal. But to seal the bargain, he needed a sacrifice. Someone who truly loved him. You're lying. She was furious. You can't prove that. I can. And so they set sail for the Nexus.
What's the burn?
Hey, Keith, you can help me with the
I think it's every crew.
Yeah, it is.
What's the other burn? What's the other modifier?
We'll put our dick in your mouth later.
No ammo drops.
Juggler?
Juggler is what you're
The
talking
scientists at the observatory have resurrected one of his victims. Well, he's not exactly alive, but it can talk, and it can't lie. You took a big risk. You know, I could just cast a spell to make you tell me where the rebel base is. And you wouldn't consider that cheating? She frowned. Fine. Let's go get your witness.
I don't think it was.
The rebellion had started after atrocities that the Empire hushed up. Renato had rescued a priest whose order had been massacred for one book. He had slept in a burnt village. Dead kittens and puppies had come to tell him what the Emperor had done to them. She caught up with him. Don't you think I'd know if my father started practicing black magic? Why? Would you want to join in? Oh, no, I'd destroy his books and... All right, I suppose I wouldn't. She stopped, troubled. He ran on.
That's what I just said.
We'll go with 36,000. Yeah, but the problem is, man, it's DPS. Damage per second. Okay, so you're taking more time charging than you're actually doing damage.
Renato had been searching for a way to save the rebellion. Lapina wanted to capture and interrogate Zenobia. But if he could show her proof of her father's madness, maybe she would join the rebellion. Whoa, personal space.
Nice.
I can't get a weapon. Is that a weapons bubble? I'm not checking.
That is nothing bubble. That is a blessing. Fuck it, just kill her. Get on abs. Fuck, man.
The observatory was a burning hulk. Dead scientists and black feathers everywhere. The ravens had taken care to burn the reanimated witness to cinders. Zenobia stared around, shocked. The scientists had been neutral. They had no part in the rebellion. Take me to your council, she said, shaken. I have things to tell them. It was what Renato had gambled on.
Get on
The Zenobia would turn against her father once she knew his madness. But the rebel base was secret. Could he really risk taking the Emperor's daughter there, even if she did love him?
Alright, everybody get up top.
Renato reached Lapino by far-speaker Toad.
No, we should take her to the base.
Insisted Lapino. No, I don't trust her. Nobody changes sides that fast, said Renato.
I better go to the base. Let them know you've got her.
Lapino said. For some reason, Renato wasn't sure that was a good idea. Just meet me at the far side of the mountains. There's a shuttle here I can take.
Always has to be your way, doesn't it?
Said Lapino.
Oh man, I should have come here, too. It wasn't just that he missed a slam. Nobody didn't jump on plate 2 quick enough.
I know. Listen, if you're touring, man, you gotta call it what plate you're at.
Yeah, if you're on plate 2 next time, Marty, your job to say if you get torn on second
Please,
time,
Terry.
plate 2 is torn. If somebody knows to take your position. Alright, you gotta let that shit be known. Cause I'm screaming, I yell out.
Zenobia was still shaking as they got out. I didn't know, she said. The ravens kept it secret. At first they sacrificed prisoners, then villages near the frontier, and then an orphanage. Kittens and puppies. Sometimes he'd come back to the palace and it was like there were glowing things behind his eyes. I was so busy. I'll clear a path for us, Renato told Zenobia, so the ravens don't see you.
Chuck grenades in the middle.
Are they having a hard time?
should have died a pirate, he thought.
Alright, y'all ready?
Get front right.
Alright, bro, you got it before you slam them. No, don't worry about that. Definitely say I got it.
Dead, always adds.
Everybody we're already sitting there waiting.
That's because you know you're a scrub.
What do you say?
Said everybody has to touch mouse but him. Because you're a scrub. But you don't have to touch.
Right, who wants to die first?
He said, hold on, let me change my boots. You ain't got time to change shit.
Zenobia came up as he massaged his sore arm. Her eyes were wet. He's been saying strange things. He asked me to do experiments. And some were wrong. They are banished, right? Said Renato. Gone forever. I mean, he couldn't actually bring the old gods back, could he?
Stop moving and look where the fuck
She didn't answer him. That frightened him more than anything.
How is it confusing? Nice.
Because when we get to the second with that lady over there, we all need to be on the plane, like one.
I've already explained this. We're gonna kill.
This was a roundabout way of getting there.
Yes, yes.
Everybody know on the platform or place, whatever you want to call it, they can get ready for damage. They move their ass to this point out here. Even if he's not slammed, they get here, they press slam, they bring it back here, then we do damage.
I know all that. I'm talking about when it's like
This first daughter's platform.
Okay, look, hold on.
I need somebody on the first plate.
I'm coming. I got it.
It's all good, man. It's all good. Okay, about what? I need somebody on third plate now.
Nobody ever jumps on
Everybody's heavy.
Renato wondered if he should have taken Zenobia to the rebel base for real.
Alright.
Maybe she wasn't playing him after all. After the bleak talk about the Emperor's dark secrets, he was regretting his suspicion.
Damn it, the plates are out of order. Oh, who's third? What the fuck, man? Dude, seriously. Fucking Christ, fuck.
They came up on an empty shack. He gestured her in. Where's the base? She asked, confused. I thought we could talk a bit first. Oh, you think I'm playing you? She was furious. I'm betraying my father who picked me out of an alley, and you think I'm playing you? She lashed out. Her claws sliced fire into his face. Energy boiled in her other paw. But before she could kill him, he slashed his sword into her heart. She staggered. I could have loved you, you son of a bitch. And then she died. Renato stood there for hours, unable to move. Finally, a ship landed near him. Peppino had brought the Farfarer. On board the Farfarer, Peppino couldn't stop grinning. I can't believe you actually killed her. Why do I trust her? Renato said. All he could feel was emptiness. You killed the Emperor's daughter. You might want to run for it, if you care whether you live or die, that is. Since Renato didn't, he grabbed the wheel, and he sailed for the Imperial fleet.
Oh, did you want to just show me your emblem then?
What? I've never seen it. I said I got
you. I'm talking to Marty. Send me your emblem, Marty.
Our Keith is having that issue. Let me get it.
That's the one for Crow. That's the one for fucking Golgoroth.
Golgoroth challenge.
Alright, hold on.
Renato had never felt worse. Zenobia had listened to him. He had trusted him. She had opened her eyes to her father's evil. Done everything he had hoped for. He had taken her to a dirty shack. Was he so used to lying that he couldn't trust even the girl he had always loved? The portal was heavily guarded. It must go someplace they really didn't want it to go.
Showing you over there on fucking Marty's plate. Alright, y'all ready? Do not get up. Marty said.
He could see the rebels reeling back as he plunged into the ranks of the Ravens. He'd had to kill the girl he loved, but he'd also blown the biggest opportunity they could have had to turn the Emperor's daughter against him. Oh, Renato could only laugh miserably.
Get up!
He was taking crazy chances now, swinging wildly. He expected the Ravens to take him at any moment, but they were running in fear. No one wants to fight a man who doesn't care if he lives. No one wants to fight a hero.
Not gonna happen, dude. This ain't gonna happen. The blades are out of work. When I tell you to get up, if you see your screen
Instead of being a complete dumbass, knowing somebody could do somebody play 3 or somebody else.
As soon as we spawn in, let's get our
Soon he'd confront the Emperor. Again. This time, he'd make it ended. He'd screwed up last time, but he had a good feeling about this time.
Hey.
Marty, why is it one time you're trying to be mid, one time you're on second plate, one time? How about you stick with what the fuck you're supposed to be doing?
I've been on second
Hey.
the whole time. I'm just going mid now because I won't mess the place up.
Alright, stay on
I
mid
need
then.
somebody on plate one, so otherwise this ain't gonna happen.
Alex, go to plate 1.
He was exhausted. Could barely think. He wanted to stop thinking. The rebels were already finished, and he was the last. The Ravens were coming for him personally now, in waves. It didn't matter. He was slick with his own blood, but it didn't matter. In the distance, he could see her, embraced by a halo of light, holding her hand out to him. Had she forgiven him? Would she take him to the halls of the valiant? Then he felt steel in his belly, and his chest, and his back. And he lay down, and he couldn't see her anymore.
Oh, again?
But he already had all the secrets he needed. He was sure of that.
Go to ads.
He must have not used them the right way. What was the best, worst mistake he could make? Probably trusting that traitor Lapino.
Fucking Christ, man.
The book's pages fluttered to the beginning once again. Faster than before? And he fell. The clouds parted over the Isles of Boreas. It was time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game changer. Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced. Bernardo knew that using it could go catastrophically wrong. But he was sure he could figure out how to use it safely. Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert. The Iblis stone was hidden there. It was a dangerous artifact. It could corrupt its user into a bloodthirsty monster. Maybe he could find a way to use it, to take its power without surrendering to its wickedness. And also, his old friend Lapino needed rescuing. Of course, Bernardo had a pretty strong suspicion that Lapino had betrayed the rebellion, and he had a gut feeling that he needed to use that to his advantage.
Then the timer starts.
Bernardo finally realized that Lapino was a traitor to the cause, and maybe Bernardo could use that somehow.
Hey, Deathwish, that is why you're running fucking 72,000 fucking damage.
He said he was hit. That's the same one that said he was hitting for 300-something thousand, right? I think you might have meant 3,000.
Ah, Lapino.
You're not going to hit.
I want you to use the
You're not going
Queen
to
Breaker's bow.
out-damage 300-something thousand. It would take 3 shots to break 1,000,000, man. 3 shots.
Run the Queen Breaker's bow. I want to see the damage. Honestly, I've never seen anyone run it.
Oh, God. All right, this is
Not
my
in
last
this
time
part.
for real, dude. This is my last time. Swear to God.
That's cool with me. Alright, so here's what we're going to do.
Lapino had apparently managed to confuse the judge by arguing that he hadn't actually stolen a winged horse. He'd only sold it. But wait,
Deathwish,
where was the
you're in
prison?
middle. Alex, you're in the
The
middle.
village was empty.
No, Marty,
Had-
you're in the middle. Alex, you're on
Had everybody fled the Ravens?
Yes. That's not there.
That was odd. Renato had been here, at this exact place, at this exact time. This time, there were so many more ravens.
All right, everybody to me. Everybody starts to... I bet you come nowhere close to my damage. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
No. Keep hitting that motherfucker. I want to see what kind of damage you get. Where's the fucking ads? Alright. Shut the fuck up and clear ads. Now, if it hurts me again, we might have a chance.
Please don't say that.
Hey, did you guys ever learn to swing that? Oh, well, too late.
That's great. To be just... No 1 second's up. What they do? Keith, get up, man. Third place up. Sniper's in. Alright, now. Fucking timer's froze. Get your sniper, Keith. Never mind, I got him.
Lapino would betray him. But now Renato knew that.
Topside, get topside. Go.
What would Lapino do if he knew that Lapino was going to betray him? Well, he'd concoct some crazy scheme, wouldn't he? Use Lapino's betrayal against him, and it would blow up in his face.
Deathwish, get up here.
Yeah. Maybe he was overthinking this.
Is he here?
Well, that would be a first.
Hit her.
Dirty and bloody, Renato finally reached Lapino. The rabbit was practicing his shuffle. Renato recognized the cards. It was Lapino's favorite deck. Oh, I thought you were in danger.
What's the damage?
The ravens are coming. Oh, the prison thing. Right, so this guard owed me 53 ducats, so we made a deal. They're very reasonable people, actually, for weasels. Now, I got a brilliant plan to kidnap Zenobia. We capture Zenobia, we find out what she knows. And that's the whole goal right there. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Capture the Emperor's greatest general, who happened to also be a deadly sorcerer, and his only daughter? That would be worth it. And it would be nice to see her. He'd always had a soft spot for her. And he felt sure she had one for him. On the other hand, he could still get to the core of the Sky Ripper, even if he couldn't get the whole thing. It must have great power.
You know, with that fucking,
Zenobia wasn't just the Emperor's.
late comment, that does not surprise me.
Arm, dude. Do you feel like doing anything crucible? Not with me, with my son.
You talking about like a fucking... Who the fuck were we gonna go get that black spindle?
Oh, right, yeah. He's gone. That dude left already.
Oh, did he?
The city was already under Zenobia's control. I had to admire her efficiency. Renato shivered at the thought of Zenobia at the mercy of the interrogators. Would he really turn her over to them? But this was war. It wasn't meant to be pretty.
I can't find no one to help me for the black.
You can't.
Alright. So I need to do some glass.
I'm doing it on time.
Yo, Keith.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still man, it's smooth talking to you.
What do you have to do on Father Glass?
It's around by minute 2:30.
Damn, it's fucking 3 o'clock in the morning.
It is.
It's up dark. I am. My son's gonna be having to play for like 10, 15 minutes while I go fucking smoke myself stupid.
Why was Lapino urging him to capture Zenobia? Obviously it was a trap. But you never knew how Lapino thought. Sometimes his plans were so convoluted they did the exact opposite to what Lapino wanted. There must be some way to play on that, Renato thought.
Not with this team.
Bro, I even did the fucking mods.
So, what's this plan of yours? Use me as bait, said Lupino. And he outlined a slightly complicated plan that involved geese, a net, setting the Farfarer a little bit on fire, Lupino dressing as an old blind toad, and Renato hiding inside a monstrous watermelon.
What could possibly go wrong? Thought Renato.
Wait, Dart, you not coming back here?
Oh, go ahead. I'm sure you know better, said Lupino.
How many Titans we got on?
I'm a Titan. I'll go to the fucking hunter when we get to the
Renato slinked through Zenobia's ships, making no sound at all. Where were her guards? Finally, he reached her. Now I just wanted some privacy, Renato said. Renato knew she still had feelings for him. Maybe he could just cut to the chase. But was timing right for that?
This happened.
Did you ever wonder why the Emperor...
Yeah, well, if this team wasn't fucking ass, we'd have got that shit done first fucking run. This team is fucking ass.
What part of job bail out on? The daughters? That y'all quit on the daughter?
Yeah.
Bro, look, hey.
Well, I thought you guys quit on Oryx.
The scientists at the observatory have resurrected one of his victims. Well, caught up with him. Don't you think I'd know if my father started practicing?
Alright, well, whoever the fuck needs a knife will send armed and vanilla fucking invite.
Okay, we doing the hard mode vault, right?
Yeah, so what I do.
Arm, you got it.
The scientists on this island had been investigating the Emperor's dark ritual on their own. They were neutral in the civil war engulfing the Empire, but they could see that the dark magics the old toad had loosed were changing the world. Renato hoped he and Zenobia weren't putting them in danger. The rebellion had started after atrocities that the Empire hushed up. Renato had rescued a priest whose order had been massacred for one book. He had slept in a burnt village. Dead kittens and puppies had come to tell him what the Emperor had done to them.
Alright, let me see what the fuck.
The observatory was a burning hulk. Dead scientists and black feathers everywhere. The ravens had taken care to birth. Take me to your council, she said, shaken. I have things to tell them. It was what Renato had gambled on. The Zenobia would turn against her father once she knew his madness. But the rebel base was secret. Could he really risk taking the Emperor's daughter there, even if she did love him?
This only take a minute.
Renato reached Lapino by far-speaker toad, the one creature the ravens had left alive at the observatory.
Lapino seemed awfully anxious to meet him at the secret base. If he was a spy for the Empire, he'd turn around and reveal the coordinates to the Empire, jeopardizing the entire rebellion. But Renato couldn't bear to think that Lapino would commit such horrible treachery. There was still good in the Mad Rabbit. He felt sure of it.
I'll meet up with you at the base,
Lapino said through the toad. Good thinking. Renato gave him the coordinates. There's a shuttle here I can borrow.
Renato found Zenobia in the chart room.
I've been having awful dreams, she said. Dead kittens and worse. I thought they were only dreams, you know. Why would anyone want the lost gods back in those days? The favorite of a god could become immortal. She held herself and shivered. He wants to become an eater of souls. Well, I'm not afraid of dying. Just tired of boredom. Renato said, but she didn't laugh.
Silence fell as they flew towards the ruins of the city of Ubar, where the rebellion leadership was hiding. If Zenobia couldn't help them fight off her father, no one could.
God damn shit. Got hung up on a fucking rock. Fuck. No. Don't try it. You're gonna fucking die.
As they touched the ground, he could smell the ravens and hear their hungry caws in the distance.
Yeah, I told you not to try
They're
it.
probably looking for me, she said. You go on ahead. She had that fiery look in her eyes that he'd always loved. It was a bit odd, though. How easy she'd been to convince. It was what he'd gambled on, but he'd expected more of an argument.
All right.
She'd always loved to argue. She considered it the fastest way to the truth. Maybe she'd long suspected the truth. Sometimes all it took was taking the bandages from your eyes. That must be it, he told himself.
Why hadn't the kid opened the Book of Destinies? At least he'd have known about that goggler. Why hadn't Hypatia opened it? War. And this was kind of terrifying. What if they had? And what had happened had been the best future they could find. If Zenobia had really turned, the war could soon be over. She could send orders to the fleet that would leave their defenses wide open. The rebels could sail right in and capture the Emperor. Victory, with not too many casualties.
They caught their breath under a ruined arch. It's beautiful, she said. This was the library of Rubar, he said. Your father's ravens thought they had an ancient book. She nodded.
Not yet, not yet.
Was she crying? This was exactly what I wanted, Renata thought. To turn her to our cause. So, why do I feel something is terribly wrong? Because nothing ever goes this smoothly, is why.
Pop that ogre with the sniper.
Renata was remembering all his old tricks, and some new ones. Now, he really ought to ask for a raise. Long stairs. So he was close to the rebel base. Nothing was on fire. So far, so good. The council toads swarmed around Zenobia, shocked she was there, shocked she had changed sides. Then the walls exploded. He heard toads croaking, "Oh, the ravens!" Blackbirds were pouring through holes everywhere. "It's a trap!" cried the council speaker. In the confusion, he saw flashes of magic. Then Zenobia being hustled off by Imperial troops. So, she had betrayed him after all. Renato ran for his ship. The Farfarer flew into the clouds, barely losing the Imperial ravens pursuing him. The rebellion was lost, and he had lost it. There was nothing to do but find Zenobia and make her pay for her treachery. His heart ached. He still loved her. But he had trusted her, and he had been a fool. She would be back at the fleet, gloating with her mad, bloodthirsty father. For all Renato knew, she was helping him bring back the old, lost gods back from their exile.
Hang back here, man.
Renato landed in the middle of the Imperial fleet. The rebels were losing badly. Without leadership, it was a slaughter. Renato felt strangely free, trying not to think about how he had lost the war, trying not to think about how he had loved Zenobia, blinded himself to her treachery. That's what it meant to be a hero. To keep on fighting after the most bitter of betrayals. To never know if you could trust anyone. Cats. What a waste of fur.
Do what?
I say you better step back there and revive Chief first.
Ooh, the poor
led right into the middle of the fleet. It was a glaring weakness in the defense.
Here, fishy!
Renata felt a breeze. What had happened to Lupino? Had the Mad Rabbit fled to safety? Or was he forlornly carrying on like the few rebels Renata could see here or there? It didn't matter anymore. All there was slash and spin, parry and lunge, over and over as he fought his way across the fleet. All there was finding the girl he'd once slugged, who had used his love against him and putting as big a hole in her heart as she'd left in his.
Use that self-res when you get the tentacles.
To everything, there is a season. He turned over and died. And suddenly, Zenobia was there, advancing on Lupino. So the Mad Rabbit had survived. "Save me, or I'm done for!" screamed Lupino. Zenobia turned, showing her teeth in a smile. "You're alive!" Renato ran towards the witch. "Lupino's the one who betrayed you!" she shouted. "He warned my father!" Before he could think, Renato sank his sword into the sorceress. She stared at him, heartbroken. "No! Lupino's the traitor!" Renato had an awful, sinking feeling in his stomach. Then, he felt a knife in his back. "I'm afraid she's right," said the Mad Rabbit. "Ain't I a stinker?" Then, the sun went out. Damn it. Oh, again?
But he already had all the secrets he needed. He was sure of that. He must have not used them the right way. What was the best, worst mistake he could make? Probably trusting that traitor Lapino. The book's pages fluttered to the beginning once again. Faster than before? And he fell. The clouds parted over the Isles of Boreas. It was time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game-changer. Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced. Bernardo knew that using it could go catastrophically wrong. But he was sure he could figure out how to use it safely. Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert. The Iblis stone was hidden there. It was a dangerous artifact. It could corrupt its user into a bloodthirsty monster. Maybe he could find a way to use it. To take its power without surrendering to its wickedness. And also, his old friend Lapino needed rescuing. Of course. Renato had a pretty strong suspicion that Lapino had betrayed the rebellion. And he had a gut feeling that he needed to use that to his advantage. Renato finally realized that Lapino was a traitor to the cause. And maybe Renato could use that somehow.
Hey, I don't really use my warlock that often, so when you do this, double jump. That's glide bullshit. One relic I'm missing is that one. It's in that one area. Basically. Don't have. That's the only one.
Alright, you ready?
Yep, go.
Alright, let's go hit it.
You guys doing vlog? On Nightfall.
Lapino had apparently managed to confuse the judge by arguing that he hadn't actually stolen the winged horse. He'd only sold it. But wait,
Oh shit.
where was the prison?
God damn it.
The village was empty. Had everybody fled the Ravens? The Ravens had taken the town. Renato had seen villages emptied like this. All the people taken away to be sacrificed in the Emperor's secret rituals. Renato hoped the people were just hiding.
Get the fuck out. Weaver gets red.
Lapino would betray him. But now Renato knew that. What would Lapino do if he knew that Lapino was going to betray him? Well, he'd concoct some crazy scheme, wouldn't he? That used Lapino's betrayal against him and it would blow up in his face. Maybe he was overthinking this. Well, that would be a first. Dirty and bloody, Renato finally reached Lapino. The rabbit was practicing his shuffle. Renato recognized the cards. It was Lapino's favorite deck. Oh, I thought you were in danger. I am. The ravens are coming. Oh, the prison thing. Right, yeah, we see this guard owed me 50. We capture Zenobia. We find out what she knows. And that's the whole war right there. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Capture the Emperor's greatest general, who happened to also be a deadly sorcerer, and, oh, his only daughter? Ah, that would be worth it. And it would be nice to see her. He'd always had a soft spot for her. And he felt sure she had one for him. On the other hand, he could still get to the core of the Sky Ripper, even if he couldn't get the whole thing. It must have great power. Zenobia wasn't just...
Sit up. Just watch my back here.
The city was already under Zenobia's control. I had to admire her efficiency. Renato shivered at the thought of Zenobia at the mercy of the interrogators. Could he really turn her over to them? But this was war. It wasn't meant to be pretty.
You need to come up here and pop that bubble, man. Smooth. Pop it right over me. Pop that bubble, Smooth.
Renato felt bad for littering, but these islands were short on trash cans.
Nice, beautiful.
Why was Lapino urging him to capture Zenobia? Obviously it was a trap. But you never knew how Lapino thought. Sometimes his plans were so convoluted they did the exact opposite to what Lapino wanted. There must be some way to play on that, Renato thought. So, what's this plan of yours? Use me as bait, said Lapino. And he outlined a slightly complicated plan that involved geese, a net, setting the Farfarer a little bit on fire, Lapino dressing as an old blind toad, and Renato hiding inside a monstrous watermelon. What could possibly go wrong? Thought Renato. Oh, this is going to be fun, said Lapino, as he ran to go set up his marvelous plan. Renato felt dubious about the whole plan. With every step, he was waiting for it all to go horribly wrong. But against all odds, Lapino's idiotic plan worked. Zenobia's ravens ran off after the geese, the net dropped, and Renato jumped out of the watermelon and put his sword to... She'd vanished from Swordfu School, from his life, without even saying goodbye, without ever telling him she was the Emperor's adopted daughter. Renato was aware of her feelings. Maybe this was a bad idea, but was he letting his own feelings get the better of him? Listen, said Renato. Let's not do this. Let's not do what? Asked Zenobia. Look, you're the Emperor's right hand. You are going to have me interrogated, she said. Sure, yeah, but then I remembered how you feel about me. How I feel about you. You were going to have me interrogated, but I didn't, because you care about me, said Renato. Well, guess again, Buster, she said as she pushed him off his own boat. As he plummeted towards the bottomless clouds of the abyss, Renato decided that he'd not really handle the situation with his usual finesse. He had tried something bold and paid the price for it. The city was already under Zenobia's control. I had to admire her efficiency. Renato shivered at the thought of Zenobia at the mercy of the interrogators. Could he really turn her over to them? But this was war. It wasn't meant to be pretty.
What? Yeah, I'm here.
Jump on over here on Destiny, man.
Okay.
Beginning on vault or what? Temple line?
Yeah, fresh.